the years, MS Teamworks has shared perspectives on MS from all members of the MS team. And although 2020 brought unexpected challenges, we were determined that a pandemic and social distancing would not stop us from sharing new and meaningful perspectives. The setting was different, but the message is the same. I have MS. I have a team. I have a future.
So my name is Dory Cohen. I'm a multiple sclerosis certified specialist and a senior occupational therapist. I work at NYU Rusk in an outpatient neurological setting. So the goal of occupational therapy is to help people be as independent as possible in their daily roles. So typically that includes everything from self-care, household, leisure, or work or school-related tasks. So if a person is having difficulty being successful at work, occupational therapists can delve further to first identify as well as address some of the barriers from success. So that might be cognitive deficits, increased fatigue, visual deficits, or physical deficits. And these are all things that we evaluate and treat from both the restorative and compensatory approach. So fatigue can be a really big barrier to being successful at work. And so it is so important to incorporate energy conservation strategies within the workforce in order to help people be independent and successful. Typically, the first line of strategy that I provide patients is planning ahead. It can seem obvious, but it really can make a big difference in the ability to perform and not forget things that have to be done. So planning ahead can include setting alarms or calendar invites to reduce the amount of cognitive information that's being stored in the mind and sort of put it elsewhere. Planning ahead also means setting to-do lists, potentially prioritizing, numbering when to do various items within that to-do list, spreading them out so that you do the items that require more energy in the morning time, or spreading them out so that high energy tasks are throughout the week. Other energy conservation strategies that are important is pacing. So we all do it, but sometimes when we get engrossed in our work roles, it's hard to remember to take a break, and that is crucial. So I'm talking both visual and physical and cognitive breaks. From a visual perspective, if people are on the computer for long periods of time, it is recommended that approximately every 20 minutes, they're looking up. They're looking about 20 feet into the distance for about 20-second increments to give their eyes a break. And that can be really important, not just when their eyes are feeling tired, but prior to that point. And I think that that's a really big part of fatigue, not waiting until someone's body is too tired, really taking those breaks prior. From a physical perspective, getting up every hour, every 30 minutes to stretch your legs, to go get a drink of water can really help your body last throughout the workday. And other strategies are talking to your bosses about potentially adjusting work hours to accommodate your needs. Some people tend to have more energy earlier on in the day, and so working when your body feels the best is very systematic and strategic, or staggering your work schedule so that you have a rest day in between other days that you're at work can be another strategy to use. There's also technology that helps people compensate. So there is something called the Live Scribe recording pen. Basically, it's a special kind of notebook that someone can take to a meeting. And instead of writing down every single detail of the meeting, they can write down some of the important words, and this pen is recording the content of the meeting. And so that can be helpful for someone to conserve their energy so that they're able to attend to more of the meeting. And then later on, they can go back and listen to that recording and see what was being said as they were writing those small notes. So those are just a couple of energy conservation strategies. There really are so many more to help people be successful at work. When sitting for extended periods of time, it is important to reduce unnecessary stress and energy expenditure by setting up your workstation with ergonomic principles. So some strategies include looking at your chair and making sure that both of your feet are positioned on the floor, making sure that your thighs are parallel to the ground and not at an incline. You also want to make sure that your chair has adequate back support, that you can lean back on it. You also want to make sure that your armrests are height adjustable so that you can customize them to fit your body needs. Other things to keep in mind are your keyboard. So ideally you want that keyboard close to your body around this distance so that you don't have to spend unnecessary energy and tension reaching too much further away from you. Other things to look into are your are your mouse and your phone, making sure that they are close by as well. The monitor should also be placed in midline to your body so that you don't have to have trunk rotation in order to see the screen properly. You also want to make sure that the top of the screen is not too high or not too low. It really should be slightly above eye level in order for you to be able to see without having to extend your neck into an uncomfortable position. And proper lighting is really crucial because otherwise you are straining your eyes. So these are ways to make sure that your body is in the right position so that, as I said, you don't have undue stress for no reason. So other modifications that can improve performance during work tasks include voice-to-text softwares. So for individuals who fatigue easily when they type for extended periods of time, they can use their voice in order to type for them. There are also text-to-voice softwares that can be used for individuals who get fatigued from a visual perspective when they are reading for long periods of time. There are also different headsets that can be used so that you don't have to hold your phone up to your ear, or putting your phone on speakerphone, if that's an option within your work environment, can be something that can be helpful. Other strategies could include using adapted keyboards or key guards so that you don't have to press as hard, or depending on your abilities or deficits. There's different keyboards that are bigger in size, that are smaller in size, that can be trialed to see what your body does best with. There are also word prediction softwares. So similarly to what we use on our cell phone, instead of typing out the entirety of the sentence, typing out part of it, and then the prediction pops up. And so that's a really good way to save energy if you're typing for extended periods of time. Other things to consider are there are so many computer modifications that can be implemented in both Windows as well as Mac softwares, such as increasing contrast or increasing size so that it's easier to see and less straining. There's also a lot of Google Chrome extensions that can be downloaded free of charge that can really make a difference when you're reading for long periods of time. There are many clinicians who play a role in the successful return to work. So occupational therapy is just part of the puzzle in a successful return to work. Other members of the team can include vocational therapists who help identify vocational strengths and facilitate in job finding and providing resources. Neuropsychologists can play a vital role in addressing cognitive remediation as well as psychological barriers to performing in work settings. Social workers can be really key at problem solving, when to disclose your diagnosis, and sort of working through some of the social or psychological barriers as well as learning about what your rights are. Physical therapists are also key to the puzzle. So PTs help improve balance, gait, endurance, ability to safely get to and from work. Speech therapists are also very important. They help with any language-related barriers to success at work. So really, in addition to seeing occupational therapists in order to be successful at work, it's really important to think about what some of the barriers are and what you need in order to safely return or safely continue at work. So when asked to provide an example of a patient who has successfully incorporated strategies for working with MS, it's important to note that part of our skill set as an occupational therapist is that we do something called activity analysis. And what that entails is really breaking down a large task into the components that it involves. And so a couple of years ago, I had a patient whose profession was a bartender, and he had come to me because he had a relapse and he was unable to perform his bartending duties. And his goal really was to return back to work. And so in analyzing what bartending entails, we really broke down that there are so many parts of it. So that includes standing for long periods of time. It involves having the cognitive complexities of remembering people's orders, especially when multiple orders are coming your way at the same time. It involves remembering how to make certain drinks. It involves not being distracted by the music in the background. Being a bartender also includes a lot of physical work. So carrying heavy alcohol bottles and being able to turn it and manipulate the small caps, cutting different ingredients in order to put them into the drinks. And so after performing and after being in the occupational therapy program for a couple of months, he said, I think I'm ready to return to work. And the only way to know for sure was to create a simulated work environment. And so in the OT clinic at NYU Rusk, we made a bar. And I came with all different kinds of alcohol bottles with water inside. And I had music on in the background, and I started yelling different orders at him, and I would change my mind in the middle and have him have to recreate this new order. And I had him do it for like 35, 40 minutes in a row without stopping. And he did really well. And that was really helpful for both of us to identify how much he really could do and how ready he was to return to work. And it also enabled us to talk about ways to compensate. So different fatigue management strategies that he would need, different things to ask his boss for in order to be successful at work. So reasonable accommodations. We also talked about exercises that he needed to continue to do in order to maintain the strength and the coordination that he needed to be successful at work. So the main thing that I want viewers to take away from this video is that just because you have MS does not mean that you have to stop working. There are many ways to make sure that you continue to be successful at work. There are many clinicians that can help you in various ways. There are ways to compensate, there are ways to adjust, and there are ways to restore certain barriers that might make doing your current job seem tricky. So I encourage you to listen, to think about it, and to take action if need be.